What is up, YouTube? Today we have a lot of talk about leading us off with UFC Freedom 250, leading into the Jon Jones current drama. I swear it's every other fucking few months with this guy. He's got some new fucking drama going on. The guy's a fucking loser. Today we're talking about UFC Freedom 250 is what they have named the UFC White House card. This got announced the other night at UFC 326. And I'm going to be honest, this is a good card. It is a good card, but to the point of how they hyped it up, being known like they hyped this event up so fucking much, and they released what we have currently, and yeah, this is just kind of an average numbered event. Like I could see this exact card being UFC 329 or UFC 330. This isn't really anything special. It is a good card, but for how they kind of hyped it up and whatever they said about it and how they were promoting it, it doesn't really match up. So leading us off, we have Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. This is a great fight, honestly. It's one of the fights I'm really looking forward to on this card. The only thing is I hope Diego Lopez gets booked, or not Diego Lopez, Volkanovski gets booked for a title defense fight, because I swear to fucking God, if the UFC makes Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez 3 after this fucking fight, I will lose my mind. Because if Diego Lopez wins this, he's back in title picture. He got one win after he lost to Volk. Got a rematch. He gets one more win. They're going to give him a fucking trilogy. They're gonna. There's no way they don't. Steve Garcia, it's good to see him getting a bump up in the rankings, especially against a guy, Diego Lopez beat Gene Silva. Very close fight with Mavzar. Two good competitive fights with Volk. Steve Garcia is going to have, a big bump up in competition. And if he gets it done, then he needs one more before I say we give him a title shot. Maybe you could give him a title shot off beating Diego Lopez. Because if he can beat Diego Lopez, but Volk went to two competitive fights with him. Gene Silva couldn't beat Diego. Mavzar barely beat Diego. I think Steve Garcia could get a title shot off a win over Diego Lopez. The only thing, I don't know if he's booked or not. I'd have to go look. A much bigger fight to have had made, even though this is a good fight, Diego Lopez and Steve Garcia is a good fight. A much better fight to have had made would be Diego Lopez versus Yair Rodriguez. And I know that the UFC is holding off on making that fight because they want to make that fight with a title on the line, because with that it'll sell even more. So they want Diego Lopez to hold the belt, give Yair Rodriguez a title shot, have them fight. That's what they're saving it for. I can kind of tell. I can see through it. Everyone's like, we need to make Diego Lopez versus Yair. There's so much beef there. It'd be a good fight. And I know that I know why they're holding off on giving us that. It's because they want one of them to be in title picture, one of them holding the belt before they give, the other a shot to make that fight. But that fight on this, opening up this card, that fight would be such a banger. It would be such a banger fight. And honestly, I can kind of see why they didn't put it on here. Is because this is the UFC White House card. They're coming out of the White House. They probably don't want a lot of this beef going on at the White House. That's probably why a lot of these fights are kind of, they're not going to be, Jones versus Cormier, or Conor versus Khabib, where shit's getting thrown, people are getting pushed, things are being said. But yeah, this is a banger fight to open up the card. They could have made it better with Yair. But yeah, banger fight. Next, Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkins. People are mad that Bo Nickel is on this fight or on this event. Um, I'm just mad that Bo Nickel's fighting Kyle Dawkins. Bo Nickel is cool. I like Bo Nickel. I've been a fan of Bo Nickel. Um, I rode with him when he lost to RDR. I defended him. I'm happy to see him on this event. And the only reason he is on this event is literally because President Donald Trump said, I would love to see collegiate wrestlers on the UFC White House card. That's why we have Michael Chandler. I don't think he's a collegiate wrestler, but he is an American wrestler. Same with Justin Gaethje. They're all American wrestlers. That's why they're on this card. I like Bo Nickel. I like to see him on this event. It's an event of a fucking lifetime. And if we're being honest, he's one of the only modern American wrestlers who's having success in MMA. There's Gable at heavyweight, but it's heavyweight. Middleweight is one of the most skilled weight classes. Heavyweight's not really. I'm just mad that he's fighting Kyle Dawkins. I think you have a guy like Bo Nickel who's very talented and got a very good KO win in his last fight. Should be fighting someone with a bigger name than Kyle Dawkins. If you were to put Bo Nickel up against, I don't know who's in the bottom of the middleweight rankings right now. Let me check that out real quick. I think putting him against someone in the bottom barrel middleweight rankings would be the best thing to have done, rather than putting him up against fucking Kyle Dawkins. And that's no offense to Kyle Dawkins. Like, they could have made him versus Bruno Ferreira, or yeah, oh no, Bruno Ferreira just fought. Never mind. I guess really bottom barrel of middleweight is kind of already booked, because Rodriguez and Ferreira just fought. Costa's moving up to light heavyweight. Pfeiffer's booked. Roman Dolidze, I think he just fought too not that long ago. No, he hasn't fought in a little bit. He hasn't fought since August of 2025. They could have booked him versus Roman Dolidze or Jared Cannonier. Those would have been two better fights than Kyle Dawkins. Roman Dolidze or Jared Cannonier would have been better than Kyle Dawkins. And then it would have been, if it was Cannonier, it would have been American. It still would have been American versus American. But I don't know. I think this fight, Bo Nickel is a good fighter to have on here. It's just having Dawkins as his opponent. It's kind of just a layup. Next, we have Michael Chandler versus Mauricio Ruffi. A lot of people are mad that Chandler's on here too. People are counting out Chandler, and I get why. But I'm not always going to root for Chandler, but I'm always going to look at Chandler as he could give Mauricio Ruffi major problems. Chandler's a former Bellator champion. Back in his prime, he was a very talented fighter. And the only thing about him that he lacks is really fight IQ. And Mauricio Ruffi, after that BSD win, seems to have come back a lot more technical, a lot more calculated, and just a lot sharper. But I do think Michael Chandler can give Mauricio Ruffi problems depending on how he approaches this fight. Ruffi's going to be taller. He's going to be bigger. He's going to have the striking advantage. Chandler's going to be stronger. Chandler's going to have the wrestling advantage. Ruffi might be a little faster. But Chandler's going to have the strength and the grappling and the durability. Like, I know he gets cut and bruised, but he can take some punishment. I think he can give Mauricio Ruffi a big test. And I think if Chandler loses this, then we get talks of probably releasing him or him retiring or giving him a can to fight. I don't know why we keep giving him these prospects. I mean, his resume is Paddy Pimblett. Who's before Paddy? Charles. again. Before that, it was there was Charles after Patty. No, Patty was his most recent. Before that, it was Charles 2. Before that, fuck, I'm forgetting his fucking career. Let me go look at this shit. It was Poirier, then Ferguson, then Gaethje, then Charles 1. Like, he keeps getting thrown to these, like, absolute fucking killers and prospects and young guys, even though it's only really been one young prospect that he's got thrown to. But he can't compete with these, top of the division guys that have been here forever, and then the up and comers. But we keep feeding him to the up and comers. Why not give him like a fucking Bobby Green? He hasn't fought Bobby Green. Why hasn't he fought Bobby Green yet? Why haven't we given him a Michael Johnson? Why haven't we given him a Drew Dober? I think if he loses his fight, his next fight should be Drew Dober. So then Drew Dober can get into the rankings. But yeah, I think Chandler can give Rufi some challenges in this fight. Next, we have Sean O'Malley versus Amin Zahabi. This is a good fight. Apparently, O'Malley was calling for Zahabi before he fought Song. And I think I match made these guys on one of my more previous videos. Like, I think it was either it wasn't my UFC Seattle card. It was building the UFC events with my friend Cage Chronicles MMA, that I think I match made these two gentlemen against each other. But the reasoning behind this is, like people have been saying, is just because Amin Zahabi is going to come in striking, and his striking style is kind of a plod forward and kickbox with you, whereas O'Malley's a step back and counter strike. Step back and bow. Step back, ha, 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 ha. So this is meant to just be kind of a striking masterclass highlight builder for O'Malley to throw him back into title contention. He didn't take a lot of damage against Song. If he doesn't take a lot of damage against Amin, I don't know why I keep saying Amin. Depending on how much damage he takes here, he could get another quick turnaround and jump over Merab for a title shot, because Merab's kind of taking his time sitting out, which is what he should be doing. He fought 4 times last year. I think him taking this time off is good for him. Apparently, Petr Yan just had back surgery too. So I just learned. I didn't hear about that until like yesterday. So that also could put the division on hold, and this is why I've been saying Petr Yan is not going to be a good champion. Everyone glazes Petr Yan and saying he's one of the best champions, and his original title reign was so good, yet he was so fucking inactive, his original title reign. And him as the champion, he's a very inactive champion, and it could be because he's constantly injured. But if you look at his original title reign, he never defended the belt. 1. 2, he was inactive as fuck. And 3, fuck Petr Yan. Merab's the champ. Yeah, depending on how quick he can turn around and how quick Petr Yan returns, O'Malley could jump over Merab, depending on if Merab wants to take some more time to himself. But this is a good fight. This is really just a layup for Sean to let him build up, some highlight striking. It would have been really cool if it was Sean versus Corey. But we're getting Sean versus Zahabi. Moving on, we have Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight belt. Honestly, shame on the UFC for giving Cyril Gane the treatment that they're giving him. They're giving him Jon Jones treatment, if we're being honest. And I get, he's got to fight for the undisputed if he wins, because he has to do that rematch with Tom, make what's right. But if he loses this and beats Pereira, then he gets another undisputed title shot against Tom. Whereas if Pereira beats him, then we get Pereira versus Tom, and then he'll probably rack up one win and get given another fucking title shot if Tom wins against Pereira. This is, if we're counting interim title shots, this is Ciryl Gane's 5th, because he had the interim shot against Derek Lewis where he won the interim belt, fought for undisputed against Francis, fought for the vacant undisputed against Jones, fought against Tom, lost or went to a no contest because of the eye pokes, and now he's fighting for another interim belt. He'll be a 2-time interim heavyweight champion if he beats Alex Pereira. I don't know why they have a champion by Pereira's name when he vacated his belt, because he's not the champion anymore. But apparently he holds the champion title until, I think it might be because he technically holds the champion title until Yuri and Olberg fight for it. Once that fight starts, he's not the champion anymore. But they keep giving Ciryl Gane treatment. And the crazy thing is after Ciryl Gane fought Volkov the second time, Jon Jones went out to state that he thought Volkov won that fight, and that they would make up for, they'd give Volkov like an apology. They'd make up for it. And in that making up for it, Ciryl Gane has gotten 2 title shots now, whereas Volkov beat Jailton Almeida and is now scheduled to fight another person. I don't know who. He's fighting someone else, though. Is it Hokit? I don't think it's Hokit. It might be Hokit. Because Blades is fighting Hokit. I think Waldo is fighting Volkov. Yeah, because Blades just got Hokit, and then I think Volkov is fighting. Yeah, he's fighting Waldo Cortez Acosta. Whereas Ciryl Gane's getting 2 title shots. Shame on the UFC for that. Fuck Ciryl Gane. I hope Pereira KOs him in 1 round. I hate Ciryl Gane. When I make it to the UFC, and if I ever get put in front of Ciryl Gane, I'm doing him horrible. Ciryl Gane's actually a bitch. Fuck you, Ciryl Gane. You don't deserve to be here. Fuck you. Main event. Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. The more I think about it, I just spit all over the place. What the fuck? I got a wet ass mouth, I guess. Pause. The more I think about it, yeah, I think depending on what version of Justin Gaethje shows up to the UFC White House, I think he can give Ilia Topuria some major problems. And it's specifically with the leg kicks. Max was having some good leg kicks on Ilia. Volk was keeping him away with some body kicks and some leg kicks. Ilia's leg, he's very heavy on that lead leg. And Justin Gaethje is notorious for having great leg kicks. He kind of abandoned the leg kicks as of lately. Later into his career, he did really good with them against Paddy. He didn't really use them as much against Justin, which is crazy to me because against Max. Justin didn't really use leg kicks against Max, which is crazy to me because Max is very vulnerable to leg kicks. And I think if he went against Max and utilized his leg kicks more effectively and just more, he would have had more success against Max, because Max is very susceptible to getting hurt with leg kicks. Volk was beating him up with leg kicks. We saw in the Charles fight, Max was taking them leg kicks in the beginning of the fight, and they're spinning him around because they're hurting him. His legs are weak. Yair was beating him up with leg kicks. So if Justin had gone in to the Max fight with leg kicks, he could have had a little bit more success. But he's kind of abandoned leg kicks. He did use them against Patty pretty good. And I think if Justin Gaethje goes into this Ilia Topuria fight using more leg kicks, he can give Ilia some problems. Now, I think Ilia, he's very talented. Ilia is one of the greatest fighters we have seen of all time, and he's one of the best fighters in modern era that we are currently watching, and it's fucking crazy to see people hate on him because the way he gets reads, the way he picks up reads and adapts mid-fight is flawless. There's no doubt in my mind that bullshit that Justin Gaethje does, where he dips down to the side and sits there for a minute before throwing a fucking uppercut or, sitting down and swinging down that overhand, that lead overhand, I think Ilya will time it and land a big fucking shot on Justin, or maybe we'll see Ilya develop a head kick, kick him in the head, and then we see Justin wobbled, and Ilya will go to work there. Because the thing is with Justin is when he gets wobbled, he kind of backs up against the cage real high. He sits against the cage, he gets low, and he swings real wild at you, trying to clip you. And a lot of the times it's successful because he's fighting people like Poirier or Charles or Chandler or Holloway or, those kind of people who, when they get hit with his power, they kind of back off a little bit. I don't think Ilia Topuria will back off. Ilia Topuria's best work is done against the cage when his opponent is backed up against the cage, and he works some big body combos, that boom, big overhand. And I think this will be a classic. I think this will be a classic Ilia Topuria back against the, or not back against the cage, but Ilia Topuria KO combo with Justin Gaethje's back against the cage. Same thing he did to Jai Herbert. Same thing he did to Volkanovski. Same thing he did to Holloway, kind of. Holloway wasn't fully against the cage, but he was backing to the cage. Who else did he knock out against the cage? I don't know. But it'll be just a classic Ilia Topuria. He's got Gaethje against the cage. Mean body shots. Builds it up to the head. Boom! Lands that one after he stumbles him, because I can see Justin Gaethje dipping his head. Ilya reads it. Bow, bow, bow. Pops his shit. Gets him stumbling. But I do think this will go to like round 3. Max Holloway took Ilya to round 4. Volk went to round 3. I think Justin Gaethje can make round 2 or 3 before he gets put out. And I think round 1, if he comes out in round 1 with heavy leg kicks, bow, bow, because he's going to have the reach, he's going to have the height on Ilya. He's going to be bigger. He's going to be so much bigger than Ilya. Justin Gaethje's huge. I think he comes out real leg heavy on the leg kicks. He can hurt Ilya and give him some trouble. Round 2 rolls around. Ilya's more wary of it. He might check a few more than normal. That's where he starts working. He builds into round 2, finding his jab, finding his range. He's had some time out of the cage. I think, I don't know. I think Ilya wins via KO in rounds 2 or 3. I think it's going to be round 2 or 3. And I think Justin gives him some trouble with leg kicks. That's my take on things with how this fight plays out between the two. I don't think there's going to be much grappling between the two. I don't think it's going to go to a decision. That's my picks. That's my opinion on the UFC White House card. Now, getting into bigger news, crybaby Jon Jones has asked to be released from the UFC because he's mad he never got called he's mad that he's not on the UFC White House card, is what I'm assuming. Dana White reportedly said that he thinks that Jon Jones is done. And this was also stated by Dana White. Never ever was Jon Jones ever even remotely in my mind to fight at the White House. And apparently, Jon Jones has said otherwise. I don't know if they have the chain of tweets anywhere. Is this from Dana? No, it's from Jones. Jones's manager. Okay. There was a chain of tweets that went around of Jon Jones, and he was talking about how angry he was. Let me see if I can pull it up. I don't even know what account would have it. I'll just search up Jon Jones tweets. Okay, maybe not. Let me look here. Oh, MMA Junkie would definitely have him on here. No? Just the single? Oh, here they are. Okay. So, there's a rumor that he was released from the UFC. He says, "I'm released?" question mark. And then it goes into laying in my bed, wrapping my head around this perception. All I can think is how fucking painful. Man, how fucking painful. And then the other half of me is like, but is it really though? So all of the negotiating was complete bullshit. Is that what you want me to agree to publicly? If I would prove him wrong, would I be wrong? If I was supposed to be publicly agreed, or if I'm supposed to publicly agree that our negotiations was a lie, we have a problem. I'll be the fall guy. Basically insinuating that Jon Jones was in negotiations to be on the UFC White House card. Reportedly. And reportedly, from sources, he asked to fight Pereira at heavyweight for $30 million. The same amount the UFC offered him to fight Tom before he rejected and said, "Fuck you, I'm gonna retire." Can we all remember that Jon Jones publicly retired? I'm gonna talk about this in a separate video. I'm just gonna go over this. But yeah, so they apparently he asked for 30 million and they offered him 15, half of the 30. And he said no to fighting Pereira for $15 million. So the UFC said, "Fuck you, we're not doing that." So then, if the UFC truly feels like I'm done, then I'm respectfully asked to be released from my UFC contract today. That is what he said. He publicly asked to be released before tweeting out this. "Hey everyone, I wanted to address Dana White's comments from the past weekend because the truth of the matter to me and the fans, Dana, you were heated about why I'm not on the White House card, but let's clear something up. My team and I were actually negotiating with the UFC for that fight, real negotiations. I never came down from my original number and what I was offered in return. I was lowballed." So that's the 30 million to 15 that they offered him, because when he was in negotiations to fight Tom, he said, "I want high six figures, like seven figures, like high six figures, seven figures, something like that." And he threw out a number. I think someone said 30 million, and that was the, what he said or something like that. So he's obviously asking for that 30 million still to fight Pereira instead of Tom. And they said, "No, you can get 15." Because when they offered him that 30 million, because they did offer him that 30 million to fight Tom, he said no and retired to come out of retirement when the UFC White House card got confirmed was being made. "Yes, I have arthritis in my hip and it's painful, but that doesn't mean I can't fight. So let me get this straight. If I had accepted the lowball offer, suddenly my hip would be fine and I'd be on the White House card. That doesn't make sense. I even received stem cell treatment last week to get ready for the White House card, and training camp was scheduled to start today. I was preparing to be ready. I understand business deals fall through sometimes, but going out publicly and saying things that aren't true isn't right. After everything I've given to the UFC, the years, the title defenses, the fights, hearing that I'm done is disappointing, especially when as recently as Friday, UFC was calling me, trying to get me on the White House card for a much lower number. If the UFC truly feels like I'm done, then I respectfully ask to be released from my contract today. No more spins, no more games. Thank you to the real fans who know what's up. Bones out. And I just want to say, this is complete, utter fucking bullshit from Jon Jones. The truth of the fucking matter, because he wants to talk about the truth of the matter, the truth of the matter is Jon Jones was offered $30 million to fight Tom Aspinall, his interim champion, after holding up the division for 2 years. And he said no and retired. And now he came out of retirement, to fight Pereira at heavyweight and just assumed that it would be handed to him because he's Jon Jones. What logic does that fucking make? And just because they offered him $15 million rather than 30, he refuses to take up one of the biggest fucking fight opportunities of his pathetic career. Sure, he fought on UFC 200. Sure, he fought on UFC 100, I think. Maybe not. That might be a stretch. But to have him turn down UFC White House because he's not making $30 million is fucking lunatic to me. Moving on from that, this came out from his manager. Wednesday, I got asked, what do you guys want to do, this or that? This or that. No clue what that's regarding to. And we said yes, absolutely. They gave us a number. We said absolutely not. Referring back to the $15 million. And then we didn't hear anything after that. Whether it was White House card, International Fight Week, or it's next week. It doesn't matter. It's more about getting the numbers. And when the numbers came, it was like, all right. It was more like, if this fight could happen, here's the numbers that you guys down for. And we're like, not those numbers, so there was no fight. It's kind of, I can't really fucking understand what they're talking about there. But it sounds like they're kind of trying to Jew the UFC out of some money here. And I love how the UFC fan base is finally waking up. We don't need you anymore. Go back to retirement. See? He retired! Fuck Jon Jones! He retired. Jon was shown extreme favoritism and legacy and decided, I'm not going to read all that. But I'm glad to see the fan base isn't defending him and is kind of holding him accountable to the decisions that he made as a fucking fighter to retire and then come out of retirement and expect to be handed this shit. Another post was made by Francis Ngannou. Watching the story unfold yesterday was very interesting. I have lots to say, but for now, Johnny boy, if you manage to get your freedom, then let me know. You deserve that $30 million after everything you've done for the sport, and they should be rolling out the red carpet for you. So basically, Francis Ngannou finally, because Francis also just got released from the PFL, and I was fighting with, I think the company's called MVP, is the fighting company. He has a fight booked under them already. We might get to see Jon Jones versus Francis Ngannou if Jon Jones stops being a coward bitch. But yeah, so that's all that I have to go over right now. I will make a separate video covering all this again because I'm going to go into more detail about this. This was just kind of to mention on top of the UFC White House card. But yeah, that's everything that's been going on with Jon Jones and everything that's going on with the UFC White House card. I'm hyped to watch the UFC White House card. I can't wait. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Goodbye.